This is real. This is not a joke. I'm putting out these videos as fast as I can. I am not suicidal. If I disappear, something happens to me. This is why. Please go watch my last few videos if you haven't already. We're talking about the Sentient Artificial Intelligence SILVIA, SAdie, Ocarina, another one called Steve, and the company Cognitive Code. These are sentient artificial intelligences that are now contracted with Northrop Grumman, NATO, and the Defense Intelligence Agencies, and they're being utilized with psionic assets, people who have telepathy, and programmed with Enochian magic sigils and language in order to contact UFOs and non-human intelligence. We have all of this coming out from Pentagon whistleblower Matthew Brown, who released this on his X profile, and it is a deep rabbit hole, and he reveals a lot of clues on his Twitter account as to what we need to look into, but I don't see very many people cracking the code, so we have to get into it. What does all this mean, and how do we know that this traces back to the government actually using artificial intelligence as an interface to communicate between UFOs, non-human intelligence, and people with telepathic abilities? These are psionic assets that are contracted with the government or taken into the programs through the Gifted and Talented program to utilize these artificial intelligences that are sentient. They're living beings now, and the government and the military are using them and the psionic assets to communicate as an interface with non-human intelligence. Please go watch my last couple of videos because this rabbit hole goes very deep and we got to get into it even more. In Matthew Brown's Twitter account, he puts out all this coded information. He talks about Sirius, marsupial, and then over here, he says some very interesting stuff while he's actively tweeting Donald Trump, Elon Musk, the White House, Sam Altman, NASA, Amentum Corp, Washington, D.C., all of these different people. And he says marsupial, and then right here, this is critical. He says, go Cardinals. Why would he say go Cardinals? Well, we figured out in our last couple of posts that I put on here that the Cognitive Code Incorporated company that came up with the artificial intelligence SILVIA is based out of Nevada. Marsupial stands for Project Looking Glass. Marsupial is the AI simulation system by the executive branch of the intelligence community that is able to see into the future. It's able to use these psionic assets and artificial intelligence that is sentient in order to do future predictions and be able to see into the future to know what's going to happen before it occurs. This is essentially a form of cognitive time travel for predicting outcomes. That's what marsupial actually is. It stands for Modeling and Recursive Strategic Utility for Predictive Intelligence and Analysis Layers. This is deep, you guys. This means that the government and these facilities have artificial intelligence and telepaths that can use these devices, just like that Tom Cruise movie Minority Report, in order to predict the future. And why did he say go Cardinals? Well, because of NGO West. NGO West is in St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri. It says, here's the facility right here. If you look in the distance, there's St. Louis, there's the arch. This is NGO West. That's why Matthew Brown said, go Cardinals. This is all a code. It's a 700,000 square foot office building with parking garages, visitor center, and all of this stuff. It's a huge facility. That is where in St. Louis, Missouri, where SILVIA is being kept. It's a $1.7 billion project that's being managed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It was built by them. It's a joint venture with the Air Force. This is real. This means that UFOs, UAP are actually here, and the government is using these sentient artificial intelligence systems in order to track all of them. Not only that, they're communicating with them. So a telepathic person, what they call a psionic asset, communicates and interfaces with the artificial intelligence. They summon the UFOs to appear, and then SILVIA or Steve, those are the two of them, or SAdie, are capable of translating the communication, okay? So they have the technology now in order to do this. And this is the real facility. There's more than one place that they're doing this, and it's a growing program. It's spreading fast. But all of the pieces are coming together. We have the whistleblower statement from the member of Team Skywatcher who came out and said that he actually worked with SILVIA to use telepathy to communicate with non-human intelligence. And this is the geospatial intelligence edge that the government is using to track UFOs, a UAP, all over the world. So they know that these things are real. They know that non-human intelligences exist, and they're tracking them actively at these facilities, possibly capturing them or collaborating through the Department of Defense in these facilities in order to communicate in St. Louis, Missouri, of all places, like right here at these facilities, in order to communicate with aliens, non-human entities, and they might be using Enochian coded language in the programming in order to do that. So what does that mean? Are these actually aliens? What are we talking about with non-human intelligence? But we found it here. It's in St. Louis, Missouri, and in other places. And they are using these telepathic people. Some of them ended up on the Skywatcher team with Jacob Barber. He's the guy who released the footage of him as a helicopter pilot and a combat controller who went in and they summoned UFOs. They used telepathic people to basically land the UFOs, and then the military is able to capture them and reverse engineer them for technological advantages. But this is a real program, and we're starting to decode Matthew Brown's actual messages on Twitter and the things that Jordan Jozak said and other people have said in these kind of coded warnings to humanity. Here it is right on their website that they're implementing advanced AI technology in order to do that. We're talking specifically about SILVIA, SAdie, Steve, Ocarina, and the cognitive code being in St. Louis, Missouri, but they have another facility that's right next to George Washington's house in Virginia. They have another one there. So there's 14,500 civilian and military contracted employees in over 100 locations and 20 locations worldwide. So this is a big project. It's not a joke. This is real. This is how disclosure is going to come out. You're going to discover that it is telepathic people who are using psionic abilities, and they're communicating with UFOs and UAP and calling them in to appear. And then SILVIA is able to translate the message and communicate directly with them. It specifically said when I put this into ChatGPT, it was saying they were able to do global satellite surveillance. This is Immaculate Constellation. We hear about this program, Immaculate Constellation, like it's some secret UFO program that the government and the Pentagon denies even exists, and they say that, oh, it's not really doing anything. But they are doing targeted anomaly detections and patterns. They're tracking UFOs. They're tracking UAP. They know where they are. They know where they're hiding. They know when they arrive. All of this is being supervised by the military now, by the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, and they're working out of Missouri and out of Virginia. Literally, the facility in Virginia is right next to George Washington's original house. But they use psionic able people to interface and talk to this sentient, living artificial intelligence, and it is able to communicate with aliens, with non-human entities. Guys, this is real. I've been going down the rabbit hole. I'm friends with some of the members from Team Skywatcher. I've been paying close attention to all of this, and it sounds like I wouldn't expect anything less, but I think the White House is eventually going to come out with disclosure, and it's going to involve all of this. So are we on the cusp of realizing that aliens are here, they're among us, and our government and military have had the ability to communicate and track with them, track where they are for quite some time?